Hi there again, it's Michael Collins from Cognition with another useful tip for applying systems thinking in cybersecurity. In this video tutorial, we are going to dive into the mental move known as the R-zoom or relationship zoom. We'll be looking at how it can be applied when trying to understand the relationships between your company and external partners or vendors. Stay with me to see how this works. R-zoom is an underappreciated yet vital skill in any cybersecurity professional's toolkit, especially in today's hyper-connected world, where organizations heavily rely on other businesses to provide their own services. It's crucial in cybersecurity to fully grasp the complex system your organization is a part of. Many people only skim the surface of these connections, and few explore them deeply. So with this move, you can set yourself apart from your peers and help your organization make better decisions. For this activity, we'll use an example company which we are going to call Acme. Let's start by finding the parts of the system that include Acme and identify the key partners that help Acme serve its customers. We simply ask what are the parts of Acme's vendor ecosystem and start listing those vendors out. We identify three parts of this business ecosystem which we name Vendor A, Vendor B, and Vendor C. So Acme has determined that they depend on each of these external organizations to deliver services to meet their own customers' needs. Now that we have identified the parts, we then need to identify the relationships between those parts. In this example, the structure is quite simple, but it can become increasingly complex based on the number of vendors involved. So we've got relationships between Vendor A and Acme, Vendor B and Acme, and Vendor C and Acme. It's important to note that these are two-way relationships, which means we've got services of some kind flowing back and forth across these relationships. They might be financial transactions if it was a bank, or sensitive customer information being sent to a marketing firm for an advertising campaign. So far, we've identified the parts of the system and we have created relationships between them. While this step is important, it is not enough on its own. So we need to understand the relationships in more detail. In this case, we want to understand how important these relationships are and to what degree Acme is reliant on those vendors. So we might use a vendor tiering system to help us better define and rank the importance of those relationships. That vendor tiering system itself is also going to be made up of a number of different parts. One of those parts could be defining the business criticality of the service to Acme. Another could be related to the sensitivity of the data that is flowing back and forth between Acme and the vendor, or how much sensitive data the vendor is holding on Acme's behalf. Another aspect may be the financial impacts, such as how much revenue is Acme dependent on with that relationship. So how much money are we potentially at risk of losing if that vendor is adversely impacted and unable to deliver services to Acme? Normally, you would then look at adding that distinction to all of Acme's vendor relationships, applying the tiering to understand what those vendors do for Acme and how important they are to Acme's business operations. For this example, though, we'll just do it for this one relationship. And as a result of this, we now have a much deeper level of understanding about their role in the ecosystem, and we can make better informed decisions about how we manage them and what priority we give them in terms of assessing their cybersecurity posture and how it might impact Acme. To help with prioritization, we can also add a scale to each of the tiering criteria to assist in making distinctions between the different vendors. With Vendor B, we might rate each criteria based on a simple low, medium, or high scale by labeling it high criticality, which suggests it is very important for Acme's business operations. The volume of sensitive data could also be high, and finally we could be very reliant on that vendor to enable us to generate a lot of revenue, so we rate the financial impact as high. So what we have captured here is essentially Acme's vendor ecosystem map. We've listed out those individual parts and identified relationships between them. We then increased our understanding by distinguishing those relationships and applied a simple method for rating them. This now gives Acme a good picture of where potential hotspots are within their business ecosystem. so that they can determine what the consequences are if those vendors are impacted by a cybersecurity event, and make plans for how to respond to minimize the business impact to Acme. Now, we could even go a step further to understand who else those vendors might rely on themselves. Maybe all three vendors are relying on the same public cloud provider. Acme might not know this yet. What you're seeing in the system, hidden within unexplored relationships, is that all those vendors depend heavily on the same public cloud provider to offer their services to Acme. This concentration of risk is hidden, and unless you take action to explore the system in a deep and purposeful way, this may have consequences for Acme's business that no one has considered yet. So if there was an incident with that public cloud provider that caused their services to be unavailable, there may be unanticipated consequences for all the vendors Acme is relying on. This example highlights how powerful the R-Zoom move is in identifying the key relationships that Acme rely on. It is crucial in helping to identify areas of risk that Acme need to consider in business continuity planning. This lesson showed you how to use the R-Zoom move to enhance your understanding of relationships. Exploring the details of how different parts of complex systems interact can help you uncover patterns and connections that were not previously visible. These findings can enhance your understanding of how systems operate as a whole, uncovering often overlooked factors that influence the system's overall performance, allowing you to make better decisions. I hope you found this lesson useful. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to stay in the loop. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so share them in the comments below. For more insights, swing by my website or connect with me on LinkedIn, and remember, better thinking means better actions and better outcomes. Check out the show notes for more information, including a link to my free Systems Thinking in Cybersecurity email course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.